last but definitely not least, we are doing this incredible panel session before we head into another career workshop. And this session is actually on how you could build your own climate job. Let's say you see all these organizations and companies that are out there that you've seen during the pavilion, but maybe you've thought to yourself, maybe I could actually run my own thing. What can that look like? And as an entrepreneur myself, the journey of climate entrepreneurship is certainly not a linear one. There's a lot of, ups and downs and pitfalls and sometimes a real lack of a roadmap in many senses. And I wanted to make sure that I brought leaders on this panel who could speak to different facets of their leadership as climate entrepreneurs. And I can't wait for you all to hear from them. So let's take a minute for each of you to take a moment to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit more on what your climate entrepreneurship looks like.
So I'll start out. I'm McNeil. I am the executive director for NCRC's Community Development Fund in Washington, D.C. And so I am a money guy. When you're starting a business or you think about starting a business, the hardest part is usually the funding. The ideas typically come. And so we're a national CDFI, which stands for Community Development Financial Institution, and we specialize in funding small business in various segments, and we absolutely focus on the climate sector as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Summer Dean. I'm also known as Climate Diva, and I'm an environmental storyteller and an online content creator. My background is actually in climate science and renewable energy, and over COVID, I kind of created this whole media company and online content creation brand, I guess you could say. And yeah, my page is really focused on climate education, sustainable fashion, and really just evoking a sense of awe and creativity and inspiration amongst people to repair our relationship with the planet. So that's me.
Hey, y'all. I'm Jacobsimon. I'm a video creator who reports what's going right in the world, usually relating to the climate and the environment, because that's what I'm passionate about. And my background's actually in figure skating. So my life, Team USA pairs figure skater. So the double made Team USA when I was a junior in high school. And I was doing that for 5 years, traveling the world, competing in Grand Prix and World Championships and all that fun stuff. And then injury made me retire at 21. And I needed something else to do with my life. So I really was passionate about the environment, dipped my toe into climate. And for the past 2 years now, I've been a full-time content creator.
So I'm Wen-Jay, the founder of Locals NYC. I started my company in 2011. Before that, I was playing in bands, crowd surfing, all that kind of stuff. I took that energy of do-it-yourself to start my own business because the business I wanted and that did not exist anywhere in the entire world back then in 2011. And my company is one of the first farm box subscription services in the country as a business. So it's like a modernized CSA. We work with all local farms within 2 hours of New York City, and we deliver organic veggies, fruit, meat, cheese, anything sustainable, anything local right to your apartment. And we also offer corporate experiences, so a pickle party in your office, farm trips. Come with me to go visit an organic regenerative hemp or fruit farm. And my personal Instagram at Wen-Jay Ying. I cover a lot of topics around sustainability and also the transparency behind food. When you're at the grocery store, there's so much greenwashing. How do you decipher between that? How do you understand food labels? I'm also here just to answer on Instagram or in real life, answer any questions about how to start your business and also understanding the food system.
So I would love to start with Summer. So, I think your work is incredible because you come with a climate science background, but you've been able to figure out the ways in which to turn a media career around that. So I wanted to learn more about what you needed to do. What were the actual steps that allowed you to be able to get to the point of saying, hey, this could become my full-time job? What did that exactly look like? What were some of the signals that showed you that that could be possible from both a stability and security standpoint, but also learning who are your clients and who could actually work with you? Could you walk us a little bit more through that process?
Yeah, so it's been very DIY. I never thought that being an environmental content creator could be a feasible job. That was never a goal for me. I got my degree in environmental science, And right after I graduated, I was working in climate science. I was working deep in the lab doing atmospheric modeling, working with large data sets. And I really enjoyed it, but I was feeling a little bit dissatisfied. It was around the same time during the first Trump administration when he took us out of the Paris Agreement. And I was just feeling like, what was the point of being a climate scientist when none of this data and none of this reporting is being listened to? And I've always loved to write. I've always loved to tell stories. And at the time, I was just feeling like we need a way to turn this data into stories and turn it into impact and inspiration. And really just like, yeah, like get people who maybe aren't necessarily in the climate movement to like jump into action through storytelling. And I didn't really know how to do that at that point. I had no idea that being a creator could be a job. And all throughout my environmental degree, I had this blog called Climate Diva. And I had started the blog mainly just for myself. I was one of the only women of color in my degree. I went to school at Portland State University, so it was very non-diverse. And yeah, I started this blog just as a place for me to air my anxieties out about the climate crisis. And I was really just talking to myself. My page had no followers, no views, nothing. And then right around the time when COVID hit, I remember posting a video completely unrelated to environmentalism. I think I was like impersonating Ariana Grande or something. And the video got like 3 or 4 million views. And I was like, okay, if this is the attention that I'm going to be getting online, then I'm just going to talk my shit essentially about climate change. And so that was kind of how it started. But at that time, I still wasn't making money from it. And I was just working full time and just making videos for fun. And then right around 2021, I started working with nonprofits and brands. And that was just like right around the time of the election. So there was just a lot of energy in the space. And it started getting to a point where I was kind of unable to do my full-time job with the same level of care that I wanted to. And I was just feeling like there was so much untapped potential in having my own freelance job and just getting to tell the stories that I've always wanted to tell. And it just kind of felt like the opportunities were limitless. So yeah, I took the jump. It was really scary and it ended up being amazing. And I'm still figuring it out every single day, but it's been worth it.
Love that. Love that. Thank you for sharing that. So, Jacob, something that you mentioned was that you're previously a figure skater. And I think what's so impressive about a lot of the work that you do is that you literally put out a video every single day. And I think at the root of it, you know, with Green Jobs Pavilion, Green Jobs Board, that's a skill set, right? I think it's a skill set rooted in discipline. And I think discipline is a core skill set that you have to have as an entrepreneur. Obviously, it looks different for everyone. I know I'm not posting a video every day, but I would say that like you are a very disciplined person from just like knowing you as a friend and as a colleague and things like that. So I wanted to dive a little bit more into that. Like in addition to discipline, what are some other skill sets that you think have been really crucial to your ability to be an entrepreneur and be able to, you know, fund your own work? And also, how do you cultivate discipline on a day-to-day basis as someone who works for themselves?
Yeah, well, that was a fantastic question. Discipline is such a huge aspect of sport and also entrepreneurship. I think that it's clear when you're an elite athlete that the people that make it to the highest level, ones that have the most talent or that are the luckiest, is the ones that work the hardest and show up for practice every day. Applicable to any type of skill. When I started making content, it became clear that if I wanted to make this be my career, I had to work really hard and I had to show up and have that kind of discipline in my life in that way. So from what I was learning by seeing other amazing communicators and creators out there, I figured that it just takes a lot of time to master whatever I'm doing. And in this case, it's creating videos. And I would make a video that I thought would perform really well and it wouldn't. And I'd make a video that I didn't really like and it would perform very well. And it's the kind of thing where you need a lot of iteration to be able to find out how people are resonating with your content and with your stories and the words that you're saying. So I figured that the more I did something, the better I would get at it. And that was obviously very evident in my skating days. So I figured, you know, it'd be evident in my video creation days as well. And yeah, for sure, like in cultivating a community, figuring out my voice, figuring out my style of video creation, it was just a numbers game. So discipline definitely a huge one. I think another one that I focused a lot on in my skating days was handling pressure and nervousness. And I would do a lot of sports therapy sessions where with skating, you would train all year for a 4-minute routine. And it's like make it or break it. And it's a very fine line. You're literally on a blade sliding on ice. So you really have to be on your A game and handle your nerves super well. And for experiences like this, where I'm talking in front of people, like it's obviously nerve wracking. And I think what I internalized a lot from those days was being really excited about something and being really nervous about something is actually a very similar physiological response. So it's kind of channeling the feelings that your body is giving you in a positive way instead of a negative way. That's really the main difference. Like your heart's racing and you're maybe a little bit sweaty and antsy, and it is exciting to be, you know, on stage talking to people. And even when I'm making my videos, like I'm always walking around in public and just whipping out my phone selfie style. That can be nerve-wracking as well. So I think, yeah, it's like it's not easy. People usually just think I'm a tourist and look the other way. But yeah, so I think that's another one that I internalized. And then the last one is storytelling. I mean, skating is such a storytelling focused sport. My routines that I'm doing every year, I'm telling a story and trying to sell that to the judges. And you're divided in your technical score and your artistic ability, basically. So it's like 50-50. So half of my score would be how well I'm able to convince the judges whatever music I'm skating to is accurate to the story that I'm trying to convey. Being in Paris, a lot of the time it was a love story, and I'd have to act very in love with my partner, and we couldn't be seen separated from each other and that kind of thing. So I think that passion, creativity, storytelling was something that I was searching for once I wasn't able to skate anymore. And I was able to find it in what I do now. And it's all sorts of different stories that I'm able to tell, but the kind of structure and the persona, I guess, that I developed in my skating days is something that I have every day now.
So Mac, you know, I'm sure you work with many entrepreneurs in all your disciplines. My question for you is, how does someone go about diversifying their income streams? I think it's a huge part of entrepreneurship where people think, okay, I'm just going to make money doing this one thing. And once that business fails, they just give it all up altogether, right? And I've had to learn the hard way that you got to diversify your income streams as an entrepreneur, especially in climate and social impact, because the money's not always obvious. The way to get funding is not always obvious. So I want to ask a little bit more on like, what is your advice on thinking about diversifying income streams, and how have you seen it be implemented the most successfully by entrepreneurs you've worked with?
So first of all, I want to say that all three of you are amazing. I'm listening to these stories, and when I first thought about the word itself and the panel what we're talking about, and you're thinking of climate, right? You know, I wouldn't think of climate, you know, your transition or what you're doing right now. So that goes to your question, right? Like, how do you diversify? You have to be bigger than what you think you are. And in an earlier session, I was listening to Jeanette talk about connectivity and making connections and networking. That's a huge part of creating yourself beyond what you think you are, because you never know where your life is going to take you. So just thinking tactically, when you're starting a business, you're in a business plan and you have to be very rigid with the business plan, especially if you're going to funders or investors and are wanting to know what you want to do. But beyond that, you have to allow yourself to get beyond that business plan. If you simply only operate within the business plan or your initial thought of what you want to do, you're going to fail. It's just inevitable. You're going to fail. And then I'll also say this, that many of the entrepreneurs that come to me, they have a job and they're wanting to move forward into, you know, something that they want to do full time. And many times I see entrepreneurs leave their job far too early. When you talk about diversifying income streams in a new business, the business is going to have ebbs and flows. It's going to be successful. And then you think like, okay, this is it. It's going to take off. But there will be external environmental factors that, you know, go beyond what your business plans say that may impact the business. You have to have other sources of income already planned and ready. But your connections absolutely will help you. They will help you grow beyond, you know, who you are. I think your story is amazing. You know, when I was talking to him, I had no idea figure skating. I talked to him about, you know, being a creative, that's what I knew, right? But when I think about, what you did to get from there to there and then to create the parallelism of it, that's amazing, right? And I'm just assuming that you kind of use your past in figure skating to help build your business right now. That's, some of the connections that you already have there to help tell your stories with climate. So again, it's a long answer, but you really have to be able to go beyond what you think you are and allow yourself to do that. Give yourself permission to go beyond the business plan that you think is going to be extremely successful.
I love that. And I think adding on to that, I think being able to believe that you're big on that is making what we like to call a skills inventory. So it's really valuable to sit down, as an entrepreneur, or even, someone who is an aspiring entrepreneur, and really think through, what are my biggest strengths? Is it my relationships? Is it my ability to organize information? Is it my discipline? It's really important to be self-aware of those things, because that will also teach you the ways in which maybe you're going to need to outsource. You're going to need to hire a team. For me, I could not put out a video a day. So I will hire an assistant. I will hire someone who's going to help me create that discipline, because I know that I have discipline in other ways, but that's not necessarily my strength. So it's important to do a skills inventory on what are your strengths? What can you lean into that's going to probably, bring you more marketability, be able to build those relationships, be able to tell your story in a way that can be strategic so you can get more clients and be able to, build and fund your business. I think those are all critical methods and things you should think about if you want to pursue a path and think about diversifying your income streams. So, Wen-Jay, I think what I love about your story is that, you come from so many different worlds and you figured out so many innovative ways to manifest your vision of what you want to put in the world. And I feel like you're very much someone who experiments and iterates a lot. And I think, with the work that you do at Local Roots, having an actual brick and mortar where you not only are connecting, farm to table directly for folks to attend events and to learn about their local food systems, but also, doing programming and all these things. I'm just curious, how have you as an entrepreneur, how did you get to this point of creating Local Roots? I just want to hear more about that story of using entrepreneurship and thinking for profit and not nonprofit as your way to make a community impact.
Okay, I might not answer your question, but I'm going to just talk.
Yeah, do it.
First on what you just said. Okay, great. So I have such good discipline with building my company, Local Roots. I have zero discipline in anything else. I have gone to the gym maybe once in the past 3 years. I just can't do it, which is why it's amazing I've had my company for 14 and a half years. I come from a background of I used to be forced to play the violin over and over for hours every single day. I'm Asian American. So the discipline helps so much. And discipline is also consistency. I will say that if I started my company now, Instagram, I don't know if I could have done it, because now there's so much noise everywhere where you compare yourself to everything and you wonder what else is true. So you know the whole Instagram thing, right? I was lucky that I started my company a year after the Instagram even launched. So I was in my own zone of I wanted to create a utopian world in New York City where neighbors do each other food. First up. How about this? Where anyone could access local organic food, no matter who you were. Because back then it was a specific kind of Upper East Side mom, who shop organic. And I wanted someone like me or my mother or just anyone, no matter culture, race, gender, to feel comfortable eating organic food. So one, I think being consistent, being in their own bubble, and just focusing on what you want to create in the world, and not doing it with but you have to have a specific goal, but you also have to have no goals. You have to know that the process of it is a beautiful thing, and that's all that matters, because you don't know what's going to happen. First year of my company, within months, the first 2 months, the hurricane hit, Hurricane Irene. It devastated almost all the farms I work with. And I was 25. I've never went to business school. I never had a business plan. And I just worked with it. So you never know what's going to happen. You have to roll with the punches. So it's this balance of being clear with your goals, but also just loving what you do. And you're right. I do have this weird way of like manifesting my dreams into this world. It doesn't always work out too. Like this brick and mortar that she's talking about, I opened this during the pandemic. This is my childhood dream to have my own place. I searched for years to find the perfect place for it. It was beautiful. I did Chinese farm-to-table food. 95% of the ingredients were sourced from local sustainable farmers and vendors, better than almost any Michelin star in the entire world. And I actually closed it down last summer. And it's interesting because sometimes your childhood dream, once you get to that point of it, it becomes something in the world, your dreams change. You know, like I was at this pivotal point. I turned 40. That's a secret. Last year, and honestly, that milestone in your life changes a lot about how you want to live your life. And I started realizing having this dream of a brick and mortar is not the lifestyle that I want. Being an entrepreneur is an amazing thing. Having your dream job is an incredible thing. It is also balanced. Nothing in life is perfect. It's also balanced with. It is so freaking hard to be an entrepreneur, especially in the local food world, especially in New York City. So you're willing to commit yourself and sacrifice. If you're okay with sacrificing a lot of yourself and your energy into this passion, then I think that also is part of the formula of bring things into fruition. And I will say that I'm sorry if this is a long answer. I just think about this topic so much because I think the health and wellness of entrepreneurs is never valued. People think that as a business owner, you're supposed to give up your weekends and every single day and fill in every single shift and give everything you have for your business. And that's not okay. I know so many people who own businesses who have burnt out, have had health issues. I burnt out 3 or 4 times last year. That's not okay. If you're trying to make something good in the world, to be sustainable, to create something sustainable, you have to also make a sustainable living of health and wellness for yourself. And I'm so, like the things that you believe that are able, the things that make a dream come true at one point in your life are going to be completely different at a different point in your life. When I started my company in 2011, like I said, I was 25 years old. I was like, fuck corporations. We're going to do like DIY band style. And like, you know what? The city, the government was not giving New York City access to good food. So I was like, I'm going to make it myself. That was my mindset. And I didn't want investors. Because at that time, getting investors, we didn't really have angel investors back then. I didn't want anyone's money changing my value system of local roots, which is why for 14 and a half years of doing what I do, people trust my brand because I've never once faltered from my value system. Now that I'm older and I have built that foundation of my values, I understand why you'd want investors, but being mindful of who you take your money from, because it is so much energy and your creativity, all of your being you put into your company. And to also be I put in every single dollar I've saved up my entire life, all the money I made during the pandemic, because I was one of those companies that I was lucky as an essential worker that my company grew. I worked my ass off, but it grew. I took every single dollar and built out a massive cold storage unit in Greenpoint for all of our farmers to be delivering their products. And I built out this beautiful local goods cafe space in Carroll Gardens. And then I lost it all essentially because I did not want to keep burning myself out. And I did not see any way for that not to happen. So I wish I had someone else's money. And but what I'm saying is when someone else is investing in your company and believing in you also, they're also going to help you. When you're a business owner, it's really hard. I know my strengths and weaknesses. It doesn't mean that I can find someone to help me with those weaknesses. You're every day nonstop trying to fix problems and do something. If you have someone else investing in you, whether it's as a collaborator, a partner, or monetarily, they're going to help you with that. And I can see that now, 14 years plus being in this business. I don't know if I answered your question. I just wanted to share all of that with you guys. I think it's really important to be realistic when you're starting a business.
No, that was excellent. And I love all of your stories because I answered a lot of my questions without me even having to ask. So I love this format. Before we open up to Q&A though, I want to ask each of you to take a minute to talk about like what advice do you wish someone had told you when you started your entrepreneur journey that would have helped you maybe get past some of your obstacles or delays in being able to have a flourishing business. I know mine. I wish someone told me how to structure my business. I think I wasted a lot of money not knowing the information between like sole proprietorship versus an LLC versus an S corp. Like I didn't know that. I didn't come from a family who did that. I didn't come from any of that knowledge. So like I had to learn it myself through mentors and advisors. And I wish I knew it sooner because I could have saved a lot of money on a lot of things. And so that's my advice. But I want to pass each of you, what was some practical piece of advice you leave to budding entrepreneurs that maybe they could avoid some pitfalls that maybe you guys faced?
So I'll start and I'll pass it over to Summer here. But one of my favorite movies ever is called Other People's Money. If you haven't watched it, it's an old movie, Danny DeVito. I think it's like back in the 80s or something like that. But immediately, I think I was like a teenager or something. When I saw this, I was like, I like that idea. Other people's money. And that's how billionaires become billionaires. They don't use their own money. They use other people's money. And there are organizations like mine that I run that's designed to do that, to give money to aspiring entrepreneurs and business owners. So I would highly suggest that if you're not familiar with CDFIs, get to know CDFIs within your own community or national CDFIs like mine to find ways to get you money, because we're trying to get you money. That's a true statement. But to answer your question about, some of the things I hear from entrepreneurs that, they wish they knew. There's something out there called technical assistance, and it's not technical as in technology. All the CDFIs have what's called technical assistance, and it's absolutely free, zero charge to any small business or aspiring entrepreneur, where you can learn everything you need to know about starting a business, getting funding, sustaining a business, scaling a business. I have someone that works on my team. It's called Small Business Support Services Director. That's all she does. And she has a goal of, I think it's somewhere around 1,500 hours a year right now, where she spends, her and her team, teaching entrepreneurs and businesses how to do exactly these things that I'm talking about right now. So find out about technical assistance in your area, utilize it, take advantage of it.
I will be taking advantage of that. I would say for me, same as you, Kristy, like learning how to structure my business as a content creator took so long, especially because neither of my parents were business owners. Both of them just worked for companies their entire lives. So I didn't have any assistance with that. So yeah, like structuring my business, especially as a creator, because it's kind of a new way to work and it's a new economy. Second of all, I feel like I'm a very perfectionist type of person, and I love just doing things myself. So it's really hard for me to ask for help and get help. And I've learned over the past 2 years that collaboration is essential. It is so key. I feel like in the past 6 months, I've done more than I have in the past 6 years, just because I started working with my best friend, and him and I run my business together. And I could have never done any of these things by myself. So if you're a perfectionist like me, don't be afraid to ask for help. And yeah, I would just say to trust your own voice. I feel like for so long, I was scared to share my voice and share my wisdom. And then also, I guess like as a creative and as someone who works in the arts, I would say like the climate crisis is going to require more creative thinking. It's going to require more jobs that are out of the box. So just don't be afraid to take risks and do something out of the ordinary. I feel like jobs like ours, we're kind of like creating our own path, essentially. Like no one has ever done this before. There hasn't been climate creators in the past. So just don't be afraid to do that. Like the climate crisis is going to require entirely new ways of thinking. And we need more creative jobs that are charting new paths.
Completely agree with Summer. In between my skating and my current role, I worked at a corporate job for a year. That's all I could handle. And I was a copywriter, and I realized it wasn't for me. And everyone around me was like, no, you should keep this good job. Like my family, my friends, they were all like, I don't know, like this content thing doesn't really make sense. But like in my gut, I knew I needed to do something different. And I took the jump, and obviously it worked out. So I think some advice in that regard is to trust yourself. And maybe the people around you don't necessarily understand what you're trying to do. But if you do, then you can still make it happen. And then with a content specific business, it can be done pretty scrappily. Like I don't have a lot of overhead. I didn't day one, and I still don't today. So I was able to bootstrap it, and I was able to figure it out as I went. As with probably all of us here, I didn't know the LLC and all the business, all the taxes and all this kind of stuff. And you figure it out as you go. Like that's kind of part of being an entrepreneur and being part of a business owner, is like figuring it out as you go. With content specifically, it was also super important to be consistent. I think to find what it was I wanted to put out in the world and then do it a lot, and continue to iterate and improve on my vision, but do as much as I possibly could. As Kristy mentioned a few times, I post pretty much every day. Not quite. If you go to my channels and be like, he didn't post that day, then don't get mad at me. But yeah, for the most part, I think that's really been pivotal to my success. It's showing up the days where I don't want to. I still put out whatever I'm able to, and I think that has built a lot of trust with people that are consuming my content, and has helped me be in this position where I am today.
Similar to what he was just saying, of trusting your intuition. I cannot tell you how many times people, when I first started my company for the first like 10 years, were like, what do you do? And then also, is that like your full-time job? Because again, back then, like nobody understood like what a CSA or a farm box subscription was. I had to always explain what it was. And they were like, that's like your job? And I just like didn't care if they said. I just kept doing it. There's two lessons that people have definitely told me, and I just did not listen to them. Or I think I was just too scared to at the time. One is something that I have just learned 14 years into my company, which is crazy because it is a business. How important money is. It sounds crazy, but money is power. We all know that. But the thing is, if you're someone like me, we think money is power in a bad way. We equate money, power is greed. Corporations have a lot of power. They have a lot of money. Most of them are not doing good for the world. But if you have the money, you have the power to change the world for good. And let's not forget about that. Money is not bad. Power is not bad. It's what you do with it. So I really encourage anyone, even if you're not starting your own climate job or building your own climate job, even if you're working at a corporation, Google, whatever, making a ton of money, use that money for good. The second lesson, I was way too scared, or I was too young to really understand this, is, it sounds harsh, but hire slowly, fire quickly. Having staff, a good staff, and people that will support you is crucial in building your small business. I would say either keeping it really lean and only having 1 or 2 employees, because employees, not only is it your energy managing them, but it's also workers' comp and all these things in insurance that you don't think about. It's very expensive. I'm not saying you shouldn't have employees. I've had some amazing employees. I've had some that are the opposite of that. But the moment that you have a red flag with someone, you got to let them go. Because I was always too scared to do that. I don't know why. Maybe it's this whole like not liking confrontation, but that bleeds into your company and it will destroy your company. It's part of the reason why I closed down my brick and mortar, is that if your employees see that you let things slip, they lose respect for you and they think that they can do whatever they want. And it's just human nature. It's nothing against them. Don't forget that you can do more with less people if you have the right people. And that is very, very important. We think that as you're building your business and growing, you think that you need more things. You need to be spending more money on overhead and having nice things. And you need to have more employees. You need to have someone do social media and this and that. You really don't need to do that. When I first started my company, I did it out of my apartment. I had 2 commercial fridges in my apartment, and my Amish egg farmer would deliver Friday morning. He had the key to my apartment. He had to bring it up there. He had to have an assistant because they don't use cell phones. That's the situation I was in. I did not pay for any kind of fancy thing. So you can go, as long as you can, going lean with your overhead and the staffing, do it, because every single penny counts when you have a small business.
I love that. All right, round of applause. You know, what you're sitting in right now was my own manifestation of running a small business. This all started from a social media post. And you guys are literally a manifestation of building this business and helping it thrive. So you're literally a part of like my own entrepreneurship journey of building Green Jobs Board. And so I appreciate all of your support and, you know, any support that you guys can offer by being able to leave a feedback survey, being able to amplify us on Instagram and social media, connecting us to employers who could use our platform, connecting us to investors who maybe want to like invest in what we're building because we're a for-profit, you know, small business. All of those things really help. And, you know, my last thing that I wanted to offer is that, you know, we're going to be here one more day tomorrow. We have a lot more to bring to the table for you all with a mentorship event, with some other sessions we're going to be doing on sustainable fashion and circular economy. And so, yeah, I think this session is near and dear to my heart as an entrepreneur, and that you guys are literally living proof of me, like literally building this. Like, it's kind of crazy. I'm like, this is actually like such a meta moment. And yeah, I did this imperfectly. We're a team of 3, y'all. Like 3 people put on this entire thing, 27 sessions, 95 speakers. I found every speaker myself. I had every conversation with every speaker we have the past 3 days. And I literally like killed myself over, honestly. But I love this. I love it in my bones. And so if you really believe in this vision, please share it with at least 3 people in your network who maybe either could get us connections to funding or employers who might want to work with us or a university. That's really how we can grow and scale this so we can make the Pavilion even bigger, make this company even bigger and sustain it, and to support women of color, entrepreneurs like myself who are literally just trying to figure it out and really create solutions that are rooted in diversity, equity, and justice. So thank you for being a part of that journey. And thank you to these panelists for being a part of this story too. Thank you guys, and we're gonna head into the career coaching session next.